Andrew Jeune here with your Asian Racing Review, joined as always by Michael Hawkes, editor of the Asian Racing Report. Michael, talk about Japan and Singapore mainly this week, and we'll start off in Singapore with Lims Kosciuszko winning back-to-back Lion City Cups.
Yeah, bittersweet day in Singapore at Kranji. A big race day, a great champion of Singapore, Lims Kosciuszko, undoubtedly the best horse in town there, bringing the crowds back. And of course, Singapore scheduled to close racing in October next year, but a few people threw the turnstiles yesterday to see this great little champion.
And there's no easy Group 1s, there's no easy races to win, but he does have a certain ease about the way he goes about his races, certainly in Singapore, and I thought it was quite a convincing win. There was the Derby runner-up laid down the biggest challenge late with actually Hugh Bowman on board as well.
Yeah, Hugh Bowman making the trip to Kranji and on Golden Monkey, who will be Lims Kosciuszko's probably rival or in the next few races. Dan Maher, the trainer of Lims Kosciuszko, saying he'll tackle the Triple Crown now, races up through 1600, 1800 and maybe even up to 2000 later on. That'll be an interesting clash there. He had the better of him there yesterday, but looking forward over distance, that'll be great. One of the great features of smaller jurisdictions is that there is no dodging for an easier option, and Lims Kosciuszko will keep going through these big races. As I said, bittersweet though, looking forward to a short future of Singapore racing.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in the future of Lims Kosciuszko and where he goes potentially as well, and the trainer Dan Maher. I just wanted to mention the jockey quickly, which was Wong Ching Chun, or Jimmy as he's known there as well. Dan Maher, after the race, paying tribute actually to Danny Beasley, his former jockey, saying he was actually the one that put him onto Jimmy to a certain extent. To get the ride, and I thought he did a good job. Yeah,
Dan Beasley, a massive advocate for Singapore racing and a huge fan, who's of course moved back to Australia. Dan Beasley back to his hometown of Wagga, going through the process now of pursuing getting a dual jockeys and trainers license down there. Really one of the most genuine people I've met in horse racing, and no surprise there for him to be pushing for a local jockey and someone to get aboard a top class Group 1 horse.
So assuming that everything goes to plan, if next year Singapore racing is wound up, do we know what the future is, say for Dan, who was winning his third actually Lions City Cup in a row? Lims Lightning had won in 2021, and for the horse as well, he's a 6-year-old, but in theory there's still a bit more to give there, isn't there?
You would think so. I spoke to Dan Maher today after in the wash up after this race, and Dan has indicated that there is an offer for him to come back to Australia. He's staying put for now, and his focus is on delivering wins for one of the biggest, Mr. Lim, one of the biggest owners in Singapore, one of the most successful, and he's not going anywhere yet. And as he's laid out a plan for Lims Kosciuszko, but that is a tantalising proposition, even if it is as a 7-year-old later on. Lims Kosciuszko coming back to Australia would be a lot of different options. We talk about how few options there are in Singapore and there's no dodging certain races. Well, there'd be a lot of options in Australia for him.
Certainly exciting
if he does decide to go. So I think he's, just to make it clear that Dan's commitment is to where he is right now, and he announced in the media previously that there is an option for him to come back to Australia, and of course everyone there training is going to need to go somewhere or retire. It's a very sad situation, and it just speaks to the professionalism of the trainers and jockeys there that they've been able to keep going. I mean, a lot of people thought that when the announcement was made that Singapore racing would close next year, that it would almost be finished immediately, that it might not even make it to this far along because people would flee. But I suppose there's enough prize money on offer, and the show must go on. People working and for a wage there in the stables, and a lot of when I speak to the trainers in Singapore, I've never come across a situation like this, where a whole industry's coming to a close. There's a great sense of responsibility to the staff and to the people who work for them, which is really to be admired.
And the show, as it does go on, will be a very exciting one to watch as well, with Lims Kosciuszko, as you say, going up from to the miles, the 18, and maybe even 2,000 metres as well. It really would be something. So we'll stay tuned as far as that is concerned. We'll switch to, actually, just before we do, we're talking about Singapore wrapping up next year. We were talking about Macau a lot last week. Has anything changed really from where we're at then?
No, sometimes when we write reports like we have, it can open sources up and officials up for comment. Other times the shutters go up and you will get absolutely nothing at all. And that is the case this time. There's a firm no comments, not only from the Macau Jockey Club staff, officials, but also the government body. So a lot of reports now in the local Macau media in Chinese language that are basically no comment, but a few more reports and a few more bad signs. Another bad sign is that Macau Jockey Club not taking overseas simulcast bets anymore. So some of those agreements have been stopped. Another report from Macau Daily News in Chinese language reiterating what we've heard from sources that yes, a new season schedule has been released and will begin on September 29 for next season, which is good news. But those horse imports haven't been lifted. Those overseas betting deals haven't been renewed. And Macau Daily News also reporting that the season will only run until December 31, which isn't a season at all.
No,
we've just come back for a few months and then things closing up. So that's not a good sign. Awaiting news there. We'll keep chasing here at Asian Racing Report. Hopefully bring a little bit more clarity, but good luck to all the participants there. It'd be sad to see Macau go that way, but it'd also, I have to say, it'd be sad to keep it going the way it has been going. Hopefully this is a sign that, you know, that there could be reinvestment or renewed effort from the people involved.
Okay, all right. We'll keep watching that. Then as we do head to Japan now, and it was the World All-Star Jockeys on the weekend. It's quite a, I say, popular one, I'd imagine, but for the jockeys to go there to Japan and compete in front of these huge crowds. And good lineup this year with, like I said, Roberto Rispoli, Alexi Bedell. Joe was there as well. Actually, Joe didn't do so well, actually finishing last on the standings as well. But Rachel King fared much better, and she almost walked off with the biggest prize of all. She's finished second in the end, just beaten by one single point.
Yeah, unfortunately, hugely popular there, Rachel King, as predicted with the fans. You know, they love the female jockeys and a fresh face. And Rachel, a likable personality, you know, would be no trouble there signing signatures. I did warn her that it would be she was going to be up for some autographs, and as it was with her performing so well. But unfortunately, she came to the final race and she just needed anything other than last. But unfortunately, her mount in the final leg failed to finish, and very sad situation. And that left her second in the overall standing by just 1 point. But admirable effort. Hopefully, opens some doors for her in the future. It's certainly, you know, a great sign that she could be well supported there, which isn't always the case. There's a big difference in Japan between being popular with fans and receiving support from owners and trainers, as Holly Doyle found out during her last stint. She certainly signed more autographs than she did ride winners. She was, you know, and that's nothing against her ability. I just think it's can be a matter of right place, right time, a little bit of luck. And Rachel certainly found some support there at the World All-Star Jockeys. You know, it's during a low part of the season, but in terms of that, it gets a lot of media focus. So her name's going to be really put out there in the Japanese racing scene.
From right around the world. So Amirai Iwata was the winning jockey, emulating his father. Yasunori won it back in 2005, and she split Iwata, and Yutaka Taki finished in third place. Young French jockey Marie Vallon finished in fourth. She won a leg as well. Alexi Bedell won a leg, and Christophe Lemaire was there as well. So some big names that they're all competing amongst. And I think hats off to Rachel, also Murray, and Alexi, who's obviously getting his fitness up for the new Hong Kong season.
Yeah, and the winner Iwata, he's a real up-and-comer, just 23 years of age, currently fifth in the Jockeys Championship, rode more than 100 winners last season. Really, probably out to not just emulate his father's deeds, who of course won the two. Yasunori Iwata won the Melbourne Cup on Delta Blues 2006, rode Lord Kanaloa, Gentile Donna, very well-known and popular jockey with a very distinctive style.
He did.
How would you describe his style?
Distinctive, I think that's a good word. His son doesn't look like he's copied him too much. He's turning his own path, I think.
Okay. Yeah. He's like I don't know, like if you just attached a beach ball to the back of a horse. It's pretty harsh, actually. I like Eduardo. And look, horse, you know what that great saying? Horses just run for him.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a backhander sometimes. Horses, out of all the things you could say for someone, they just run for him.
Yeah.
Not sure how, but they do.
But they do. In other news out of Japan, it was the Keeneland Cup on the weekend as well. Namura Clair, 4-year-old filly, still looks progressive as we head into the next round of group races there in Japan. The Sprinter Stakes coming up at the start of October. We've got the Centaur Stakes before that as well. She looks like a filly that's going places still. Yeah,
second in the Takamatsu Namura Keeneland, and now warming up with another Group 3 win. A filly on the rise, just 4 in what can be a pretty shallow pool. The sprints, and usually if you're at the top end of those sprints as well, it's likely that they would travel. So yeah, let's wait and see. Sprinter Stakes coming up early October.
The trainer only had a license for 5 years, I believe, Hasegawa. So this is sort of putting him potentially into the limelight and onto the competing with some of the big boys, both in Japan and potentially traveling to some of the maybe Hong Kong in December. A race like that might be the sprint might be suitable for it too.
Comes at the right time, and usually a couple of the Japanese sprinters get an invite. And yes, great time to have a banner horse so early in his career.
Speaking of Hong Kong, not too far away from the start of the new season there, September the 12th. The campaign gets off for 2023-24, and obviously we're building up to it here, but also we're starting a podcast as well, so look out for that, looking at all the different angles, the talking points as we build up to the new season ahead.
Yeah, we'll do it in 3 parts. We'll look at the jockeys, the trainers, and the horses coming into this season. I'm sure which one we'll start with yet. We might keep you on your toes, but lots to talk about. And Romantic Warrior confirmed to be heading to Australia to the Cox Plate. Obviously, one of the highest rated horses in Hong Kong. News during the week just quickly confirmed that, let's see if they stick to it, but Golden 60, Francis Lowe's trainer, speaking to media and saying that Golden 60 will not race until December. First up into the Hong Kong Mile.
Into the Hong Kong Mile. Because there wasn't a talk at one point of that being his last start anyway. It's going to be the Swan Song.
Well, let's see. He's coming up. He's 8. First up, what do you think?
It's not impossible.
No.
Not impossible, but it's certainly a new approach to those to a race like that. Just on looking back to last weekend as well, Vincent, everything, he's still on the road to recovery, obviously, but it naturally gives him a little bit more time as well, I suppose, if that's the plan.
Obviously, he's saying he'll be back for the season opener, but a little bit more time would give him some breathing space there for sure.
Okay, interesting. All right, so plenty to look forward to. Actually, covered everything else. You mentioned Romantic Warrior and the Cox Plate. Busy time coming up to the spring as well in Australia. Both in Victoria and New South Wales, lots of banner races coming up, and the sprinting ranks as well, looking particularly strong, I think, this year.
Absolutely. A couple of big races. Memsie Stakes in Melbourne, I Wish I Win versus Mr. Brightside and Alligator Blood down there. That's a great race. But in Sydney, a Group 3, that's a Group 1 somehow. That's ridiculous. But anyway, we've written about that and spoken about that at length, the Australian group racing pattern, if we can call it that. There's a Group 3 sprint in Sydney, which is high caliber racing. Nature Strip versus his old rivals, a couple of his old rivals there, including Eduardo Nature Strip coming back at 9.
Yeah, well, Eduardo's
first up.
The elder statesman there. He looks super Nature Strip in his most recent trial as well, so it looks like he's hopefully come back and can be competitive again. But I think otherwise, that just about covers it, I think.
Great. Looking forward to some warmer weather and big racing coming up in Australia, and looking forward to next week.
Excellent. Well, like and subscribe. Keep following us all the major social channels as well, and tuning in for more from Asian Racing Review.